Thomas here with Much Props, going to give you another how-to video. You are probably wondering why I am dressed so professional. I bought a mask a while back from Jose Madera, aka PR Props. You see me build a couple of things of his, doing modifications to them, paint jobs, stuff like that, and I thought it was time to do another one. He's got tons of them on his Etsy for sale at reasonable prices. Definitely please go give him a look. I'll put his links down in the description below. But I bought a Overhaul mask from My Hero Academia, and I wanted to kind of modify it just a little bit, try and stay within the same realm, and do something a little bit unique. So today I am going to modify PR Props Overhaul My Academia mask. Let's get to building. First and foremost, shout out to PR Props. He is an insanely talented sculptor, and you should definitely check out his Etsy shop and socials listed in the description below. Buy something from his shop, you will not be disappointed. This mask doesn't really need any modifications. I just like to put my spin on stuff, so I sand off a lot of the details to prepare the surfaces for my modifications. Wear a respirator and work in a well-ventilated area while doing this because you don't want to breathe in this dust. I wanted to add a unique texture to the mask, and I stumbled across this placemat at Walmart while I was wandering around. I positioned it on the mask and then with a Sharpie traced the perimeters where I needed to cut the vinyl so that it would lay in the space. I don't always buy things with a project in mind, just things that I think are interesting. This just so happened to be one of those impulse purchases. Once the mat is trimmed to fit, I sand the bottom of it and super glue it into place. I start from the middle and work my way out. To hide the edges and add an extra little detail, I cut some thin strips of What the Foam from Cosplay Apprentice. It's really dense EVA and super sturdy. I super glue it into place over the edges up against the sculpted stitching. I have a bunch of random resin molds that I pour my excess into sometimes. This is one that I have that's like a knife/letter opener set I bought on Amazon. I thought it would add a cool little detail and change up the actual model. I also used some resin cast from Evil Ted's Cosmold. I realized this isn't canon to the show, which I have never actually seen, so sorry if these modifications are too much for you. When I'm making changes from the originals, I'm just having fun doing my own thing. The joys of making. To unify the surfaces of all the different materials, I hit it with 2 heavy coats of black spray paint. To start off my paint job, I hit the trim and the detail pieces with some gold rub and buff. Using an old chip brush, I lightly drag it across the high points. I've never watched the show, but I saw this on PR Props Etsy shop and thought it was a really cool looking Plague Doctor mask that I wanted to make modifications to. For the texture inlay, I wanted to stay relatively true to the character's color scheme, so I went with some red acrylic paint from Plat Effects. I drag a flat brush across the high points of the texture, trying not to get into the divots. Anywhere that I do, I go back and fill it with a little bit of black acrylic and cover up my mistakes. I decided I wanted a little more variation in the color scheme to pick up on some of these extra details, so I added some chrome. These Molotow paint pens are expensive, but by far have a much better finish than other brands. Instead of painting the inside of the detailed castings on the nostril, I decided to glue in some cheap gems I bought at the craft store with a similar diameter instead. It's an easy modification that saves me the task of keeping my hand steady in a tiny space.
thought about using my typical elastic banding, but due to the weight and how far it extends off of my face, I decided to go with something a little bit sturdier. So I drilled some holes with my rotary tool, then took some Chicago screws, washers, and a belt I bought at a thrift store to make a bit fancier and rotatable strapping. The resin was a little thinner on one side, so to even it up, I cut out some foam washers to kind of balance it. I cut the belt, punched a hole, and connected my strapping into the mask. I tried it on and got some spray paint smashed into my face, and the resin stitching didn't really feel great either, so I decided to put a lining on the inside. I had this scarecrow hat that came with like a Halloween mask I bought a while back and thought it would work as a liner, so I turned it inside out and hot glued it to the inside. The cone shape of the hat fit perfectly inside and made the inside look and feel a whole lot better. I finished off the edges with a little gold cord to hide my hot glue overflow.
And we are finished. Here is the end result. Overall, I think it turned out pretty awesome, but it kind of started out awesome already. Jose's got some awesome stuff. Definitely check out his Etsy. I did sand down a couple of pieces so that I could put this mat over the top of it and give it that extra little bit of texture there, and then put some of Evil Ted's mold pieces over the top of it, and just kind of did a few things here and there to give it my own little style. I really think I did a good job of picking a different strapping than I normally would. These resin masks are typically kind of heavy, and because of the way this one is positioned on your face, it wouldn't have really worked with just the elastic normal stuff. And I really like that I took the time to actually finish the inside so that it looks nice and neat. And then I just kind of hit it with the edges, doing a little bit of cording there. But I'm super happy with it. It will sit amongst my other PR prop modification builds, which are the only thing that is in the build room that we're currently in. All my other stuff just gets stacked back there. So maybe you will try and buy one of his awesome masks yourselves and do some modifications. Find people on Etsy, support makers. There are tons of awesome people out there who will sell you some of their amazing art. Maybe you will get some...
Yay!
And inevitably, they're going to ask you, how'd you make that? You can give them one of these. Tell them much props. I've already kind of fit it to my head, so I'm just going to kind of push it down on there like so and mess up my hair and yeah. Peace out.
If you didn't realize it, I now have a Patreon. Please consider joining these awesome people listed above to help me continue to make content here on YouTube and get access to behind the scenes stuff, polls, and other tier perks that come along with being a patron.